Hello, 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 and welcome to In the Spotlight, the show that brings you unknown underground artists and puts them in the spotlight. I'm Ryan Scibetta, our engineer and editor is Quill, and we are joined this week by Rain of the Garages, who has 20 songs for us and a fantastic history behind each and every single one. Without further ado, let's hear the first one. Mike Townsend is a disappointment. That was Mike Townsend is a Disappointment by Rain from the Seattle Garages. Now, this song was my introduction to the Garages discography, and I think it's the main introduction that a lot of people have had. So it's a good way to sort of introduce the listener to what the heck is going on with baseball. So what if, for somebody who has no clue what baseball is, which is the majority of the people listening right now, how would you describe it?
So the way I introduce baseball to people is that it's just like a sports betting simulator. So you have these teams, they have a bunch of players, and they're playing baseball, which is functionally similar enough to baseball that if you roughly have an idea of what that is, then you're good to go. And you place bets on these teams, who you think you're going to win. You pick a team that you're going to support through the season. And you basically just follow this random number generator as it plays out all of these baseball matches once every hour for a full week. And then at the end of the week, there's finals, and whoever wins that wins the season. And then all the rest of baseball is the strange, eldritch weirdness that they've added on top of that. So players can get swapped around, players can get incinerated, Their stats can change. There's a bunch of ways that you can tip the scales in your team's favor by voting on blessings for your team that you get at the end of every week. So it's just basically this sports simulator that you play in your browser, blaseball.com. But then after that, as people were getting into it and watching the games along live on like Twitter and Discord, people started making up backstories and lore behind all of the teams and all of the players, like drawing all of the players, what people thought that they should look like, and coming up with this whole universe around Blaseball. So whenever I started playing Blaseball, I picked the Seattle Garages because their icon was a guitar. I think it was between that and another team, but I saw a guitar and I was like, oh, sure. That's a team. Because you get like no information on them whenever you first go to the website. You're just picking one at random, essentially, based on which one you like the name and icon of. But it turns out that
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just saying the website's pretty bare bones, so pretty much all of the lore is coming in through the stuff that people make.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever I afterwards looked up all of the lore, it was like the Seattle Garages are a Blaseball team, but they're also a band. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I picked the one that's a band. And in the Discord channel, people were talking about like making music and doing like parodies of songs, but making them about Blaseball. And I was like, well, that would be cool to get involved with. So I went on Bandcamp and registered the domain. And I was like, okay, I have to pick something that I'll write the first song about, because, parodies and covers are not my thing. So I was like, okay, which player? I'll pick a player and I'll write a song about them. And I clicked into Mike Townsend's profile, and it was like, Mike Townsend is a disappointment. He's a loser, and he's very bad at the sport. And he can only throw a Blaseball in one particular way. He knows no fancy tricks. He knows nothing about the sport. He just throws the ball, and he's not very good. And I was like, perfect, great, excellent character. I love him. And so, yeah, I recorded that and posted it up. And a lot of people had it as like both an introduction to the Garages as the band, but also there's a remarkable number of people who come into the Discord or post on Twitter that they heard Mike Townsend as a disappointment and then looked up what Blaseball was and started participating and, making fan art themselves and stuff, which is pretty wild. Absolutely unbelievable. But that's where Mike Townsend as a disappointment comes from.
Yeah. What a terrible player. Absolutely nothing interesting is ever going to happen to him.
Yeah. In the future, there will be nothing about Mike Townsend that shows up again.
Move on. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to intro about a squirrel.
Go for it.
So whenever I was participating in the Discord and people were talking about doing fan music, someone before I recorded Mike Townsend is a disappointment had done a version of About a Squirrel, which was the parody of the Nirvana song About a Girl. And I was like, well, would you like me to do like a backing track to this, and then you can sing your sort of parody version of the lyrics over the top? And that is what we did. Myself and Mucus Queen on the Discord pulled that together, which is the song you're about to hear.
Let's take a listen. About a Squirrel by Rain and Mucus Queen. That was About a Squirrel, a parody of Nirvana's About a Girl, by Mucus Crean with the melody and the lyrics, and Rain with the backing track. Now, I know this is the only real parody song that we have on the playlist. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, so whenever we were first gathering stuff together, we were doing more of them, because that was what people were like, oh, let's just do a bunch of parodies. But as people started writing original music, I think everybody got a lot more excited about following the lore of Blaseball with original music, as opposed to trying to find songs and do parodies of them so that they related to the things that were happening in the game that week. So I think a lot of people were just like, oh, you know what? It's much better if I can write whatever I want to sort of describe what's happening. So yeah, the volume 1 I think has two covers on it, and then maybe the next one has one cover on it, and then there hasn't been a cover since until recently, where I did a cover of Take That's Back for Good, Want You Back. I never remember the name of that song, but yeah, I think it just lets people be a lot more precise about what's happening in the game at the present moment.
All right. The next song we have is a lead single, right? Fight Gods.
Yeah. So we did volume 1. We Are the Garages. We Are the Garages, volume 1.
You've been exposed. You're not from Seattle.
Oh no.
Where are you from, Rain?
I'm from Ireland.
Yes.
Which is not Seattle, Washington, as it says on the Bandcamp. But fictionally, the band is from Seattle. So I felt very strongly that it should say that it's from Seattle, Washington. And one of the members of the band, June September, is from Seattle, Washington.
You're tuning into KCSB-FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara. Online at kcsb.org.
Garage's music has ended up in the sort of top charts for Seattle on Bandcamp, which I do feel very sorry for. Sorry for any bands that are actually all the members are from Seattle and they're playing music in Seattle. Apologies for taking over your charts for a week. But yeah, we did volume 1, which was a compilation of assorted tracks. And then for the next one, I was like, well, what if we picked a general theme to focus on? And the Discord and the fandom around the garages was very much talking about taking down the Blaseball gods, because they had started to incinerate the players at this point. Players were starting to die, and we had lost our very own Tiana Cash, who has her own song that is at the very end of this show.
That's the closer. And as of September 23rd, which is when we record this, there is an effort to bring Tiana Cash back from the dead in the Hall of Flame, which is a whole nother deal that kind of tells you how crazy Blaseball is.
For sure. The Hall of Flame, just briefly, is a list of all the players who have been incinerated, and you can basically donate peanuts to a giant squid who is promising to bring them back from the dead, but we don't know if that's going to happen as of the time of recording. There's just a mysterious leaderboard, and I think Tiana Cash is floating on that at about 9 or 10, mostly just, I presume, from the name recognition of the song Tiana Cash.
It's single-handedly carrying her.
Absolutely. Which
Looking
is
at the
lovely to see. I'm a big fan of it. I really hope Tiana Cash comes back.
Looking at the Hall, she's in 12th place out of 72.
That's pretty good.
With 1,394,000 peanuts and 955 donated in her name as tribute.
That's pretty good. Although, not to downplay how much people love Tiana, I think everybody is pretty much behind the Boyfriend Montreal trail. Everybody loves Boyfriend, and everybody also loves the Marijuana Brothers. Randall and I forget the other one.
Dominic,
yes, Dom Marijuana. That's right.
Yeah, Boyfriend's at over 5 million right now, at 5,022,117. Randall Marijuana is at 3,789,511. They're in second and third place respectively.
Yeah, and quick lore update on Boyfriend Montreal and why everybody likes Boyfriend so much. Boyfriend in the lore is everybody's boyfriend. So if you're out there and listening, you are dating Boyfriend Montreal.
Congratulations. It's a good relationship.
Listen, I think everybody feels very fulfilled by their relationship with Boyfriend Montreal. But yeah, I love that mostly I don't get to hear lore from the other teams, just because the discussion is so quick and fast in the individual band chats that it's very rare that you get to hear anything from the other teams unless it's the big news. So I've loved seeing everyone get very excited about Boyfriend and the Marijuana Brothers appearing on that leaderboard as well. People have been so hyped up. It's been delightful.
I guess we should play the song that complains about why they're on the leaderboard in that first place.
Absolutely.
Fight Gods by Rain and Mucus Queen.
Seattle, Washington. We have some breaking news here from the Seattle garages who have announced that they declared war on all gods. That's right, the Seattle garages, the baseball team, has declared war on every single god.
You're gonna light us on fire and expect nothing to happen like it doesn't matter. That's not the way this works. You can't just lift the ones we love away from us like it doesn't matter. 'Cause then we get angry and everyone you know is going to feel it. And we will find a way to take the stairs to up above. And we won't talk of love. We're gonna get violent. We're gonna fight gods, fight gods. We're gonna fight gods, and we're gonna win. We will get our vengeance in the end. We're gonna fight gods, we're gonna fight gods, and we're gonna win. And nothing will remain the same again. And our redemption arc is coming up. Yeah, I bet you feel frightened. You feel it coming like a wave, a million droplets making up an ocean, and you know it would be fun. We put out the sun, we're coming to get you. 'Cause now that we're angry, everyone you know is going to feel it. And we will find a way to get the train up to the sky. So we're not asking why, we're asking for justice. We're gonna fight gods, we're gonna fight gods, and we're gonna win. And we will get our vengeance in the end. We're gonna fight gods, we're gonna fight gods, and we're gonna win. And nothing will remain the same again. And our redemption arc is coming up. Fight gods, we're gonna
That was Fight Gods by Rain and Mucus Queen from the Seattle Garages. We're joined now by Rain in an interview to tell us all about the story of baseball and where all of these songs come from, both musically and soulfully, for lack of a better word.
I think that's the perfect word.
Awesome. I'll take it.
So yeah, the Kill the Gods album is I would say the fan favorite album, or maybe people just really resonate with the idea of taking down gods and also killing them for whatever reason. And part of it is that it also continues the saga of Mike Townsend.
Yes.
In the next track, which is Park It, by Ethan Geller, which I think has the voice that people canonically associate with Mike Townsend, because there's a big monologue from Mike Townsend at the end. I've seen like people draw like comics of this monologue from Mike Townsend. So this is definitely like one of the most story heavy tracks in terms of like the players and what's going on and how they play the sport baseball. One other thing to note is that Tiana Cash has been incinerated at this point. Rest in violence. But also a character by the name of Jalen Hot Dog Fingers. She has been incinerated at this point. A victim of eldritch circumstance is Jalen.
She was the very first one incinerated, right?
Yes, I think it was that way around.
After the opening of the Forbidden Book?
After the opening of the Forbidden Book, Jalen Hot Dog Fingers gets got first. And then Tiana gets got from the garages. But yeah, like as you mentioned, I think it's 72 incinerated total.
Yep.
So that's a lot of players that have been lost. There's a lot of mourning that's happened for those players.
It's a rough world out in baseball.
Absolutely, it is. So Park It has a monologue from Mike Townsend where he talks about having to step up as pitcher and sort of feels like he has to fill in the shoes that have been left by Jalen Hot Dog Fingers.
And if you've been listening since the first track, Mike Townsend is a disappointment, you'll hear a lot of the lore from that come in with this track, as Mike talks about, people seeing him as a disappointment.
Which is tragic, absolutely heart-wrenching.
There are heart-wrenching Mike tracks, but this one's a lot more light.
Yeah, this one's a lot more fun. Before we really knew where Mike would end up, but yeah, I think this one's a pretty chill track. I think it's fun. Ethan did a great job.
Let's get with the good vibes like the Hawaii Fridays and listen to Park It by Ethan Geller.
Scibetta, the best Vocaloid in the league. But I'll get to that later. We got Quiff now and Quiff never wins. I think he's at least half hour, it's unclear. But we've got Louis Scibetta, the only Vocaloid who can thwack. When they rap back, they bellow. This next run's for hot dog fingers, a victim of Eldritch circumstance. If she lived to see our new picture, this next ground out's for Mike Townsend. We're gonna win in spite of you. If we don't win, well that's totally okay, cause you know we're gonna pop a pocket. That's why they call baseball the sweet science. He just walks up to the plate and says, Soundgarden's pretty good, but they're far from the best band out of Seattle. Have you heard of this band we play? I'll make you a mixtape after this. Then he hits a grand slam. This next round's for hot dog fingers, a victim of Eldritch circumstance. If you live to see our new picture, this next round out's for Mike Townsend. We're gonna win in spite of you. Out of the way, it's Wednesday season. I know we're anti-capitalist, but Tiana Cash didn't have to die. She was living, made of money, though I'm sure informed to politics. So pocket.
To KCSB-FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara. Online at kcsb.org.
Hi, is this thing on? Okay, my name is Mike Townsend, and I'm the current pitcher for the Seattle Garages. The previous pitcher, Jalen Hot Dog Fingers, was incinerated. She was the first one killed after the Forbidden Book was opened, and I remember just sitting there with Tiana when it happened. At first I couldn't figure out exactly what had occurred, but I realized she was gone for good. I was like, that's baseball for you, you know? Like, I forget who said it, but someone said baseball is a game of inches, and if she was standing just 3 inches to the right of the mound, I'm sure she would have been fine. But, you know, anyways, shortly after that, Duende said, "Oh, I can't believe you are a pitcher now." And I said, "What? I'm the new pitcher?" And he said, "Yeah, I really can't believe it." To which I said, "Oh, geez, thanks. How cool is this?" But as you probably know, I'm not really as good as Hot Dog's Fingers was, you know? I think the Hot Dogs let her throw the ball to more than one place without missing the strike zone. And she was even able to pitch it at different speeds, you know? I don't have Hot Dogs for fingers, so I can't do stuff like that. Anyways, so I'm the pitcher now regardless, and I didn't realize how much pressure it would be, you know? Like, every time I throw a walk-off, the fans are like, "Townsend." And sometimes when someone hits a home run on the other team, the fans will yell, "Townsend." And sometimes when I pitch a bad game, the fans will write a song called something like Mike Townsend, Disappointment, and it will become the new anthem of our team, and it'll play non-stop on KGAR. You know how it is with baseball fans. Anyways, I know I'm lucky to be the pitcher for such a great team, and I love my teammates, but I wish I was really good, you know? Like hot dog fingers good. Like I could pitch a no-no against the Hellmouth Sunbeams good. But I'm not, you know? I'm not Jalen Hot Dog Fingers. I'm not the best baseball pitcher in the league. I'm just kind of goofball that the team likes to turn into a running gag. But we've won some games, you know? And it's not like we won those games without me. And, you know, I'm not incinerated. At least, you know, not yet. I just want to be this big, bright, shiny star whenever I step out on the field. I don't want them to say Townsend or Townsend. I want them to say Townsend, you know? Like Townsend. It's so hard, man. Anyways, can I start over? Okay. Hi, my name is Mike Townsend, and I'm the pitcher for the Seattle Garages.
That was Park It by Ethan Geller. This is the first track we've heard that from the Seattle Garages that you weren't directly involved in making. What's it like working? I know the team's 15 people. What's it like working with a band that big?
It's pretty incredible because it's a lot of people with a lot of varying degrees of experience at like writing songs. Some people have like the first songs they've written be on the Garages projects, which is pretty cool. As far as collaboration goes, because baseball happens on a week-to-week basis, it is like hard for people to work together. So what ends up happening is people write entire tracks and then submit those tracks, and they get compiled. So everything ends up sounding like a very strange mixtape. But I think everybody has, because I don't think anybody was like, oh, the Garages have to sound like this or that, or have this sort of sound, or, you know, everything has to be fuzzy punk guitars or whatever. So you get stuff that sounds like Park It, and some of the other tracks we'll get to that are very much like not, they're not all the same, and they're definitely from various perspectives and from different people.
It kind of works out for the story though, because there's like 14 different band members.
Yeah, and it means everybody's like taking a different thing. So whenever I'm like, oh, let's do the one about killing the gods, you know, everybody's got something like different they want to say about that topic and a different like approach to it, and then it's just my job to like put them in an order that makes it seem like it's like one cohesive story, which thankfully everybody is very good at giving me incredible stuff to work with. But yeah, I think it's incredible that it's as big as it is. I'm very fortunate to have the people who are contributing to the project that have been so far. It's the only reason that we've been able to pump out 6 going on 7 albums worth of content since the 1st of August, which is not even 2 months now. Yeah. Because we have Volume 1, Kill the Gods, Redemption Arc, In the Feedback, Caught in the Reverb, and then Encore, which is coming out this Friday, but will be out long since by the time this goes out. And also probably another 3 albums.
Yeah, we're recording this on September 23rd, 2020, online because, you know, pandemic. And we have a backlog of episodes. So by the time you hear this, you know, Mike Townsend may have gone through 8 more stories Or maybe like Luis Acevedo becomes the hero of baseball. For context, he's the worst player on the Crabs right now and a former Seattle Garage player. We got no clue.
Luis Acevedo, of course, is a Vocaloid. Very important to mention. And part of the reason why they are so bad at the sport is because often when they attempt to catch balls, the baseball passes right through them because they are a hologram.
It's a tough handicap to deal with.
It's a difficult way to be playing the sport for sure, but in terms of my headcanon, the lore hasn't shaken out on this, but I do believe that Luis is pursuing a solo career at this point. So you can look forward to the Vocaloid album from the Garages. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but who knows?
I hope so. You may be able to look it up if we play this and this happens. Who knows? Everything about baseball is mysterious.
Yeah, we'll add it in post. We'll do like a little. Currently.
Well, talking about a player who is literally spineless. Our next song is Pathetic Spineless by Rain here. Anything you want to say about this track before we play it?
Yeah. So one of the tricks I've been doing to make the albums feel as cohesive as I think they do, despite being made by 15 different people, is to do some musical callbacks and sort of bookend each album with things that sort of explain where it's coming from and explain where things are ending. So Pathetic Spineless sort of references Fight Gods at the end of this album, and it's essentially about whenever you go to fight the gods, whenever you get up there, and they're very disappointing when you get there. It turns out the authority figures that have been keeping you down are actually, not even just bad people, but like actively like spineless, terrible, pathetic individuals that you have no hope of respecting as an equal by the time you meet there. And I'm not saying that it was informed by anything that was happening in the real world at the time. But if you did want to read into it, I'm sure there's some sort of reading that you could make about the current political situation and Pathetic Spineless, which is again a game about a song about going to fight some sports gods.
Well, there you go. We can't say too much just for legal reasons, but interpret that how you will. Pathetic Spineless by Rain.
I'm riding in the front seat of a train car, hurtling towards the heavens, and I'm gonna catch you alone. I got my bag packed and it's full of stuff that I can then use when I fight them off. I'm gonna catch you alone. When I look you in the eyes, I will start to realize you're pathetic in the worst ways. You're spineless like on most days. When I look you in the eyes, I will start to realize you're not going anywhere. When you go to fight gods, but none of them live up to it, then all of them give up. Does that make you feel better? When you go to fight gods, but none of them meet your eye line, does that make you feel fine, or are you disappointed? When you look up to is better than you are. I'm riding in the front seat of a train car, listening to songs on my iPod that will hype me up to take you on or take you down. But it's somewhere between track 6 and 7 that I realize when I get up to heaven, I'm gonna make you cry without lifting a finger. When I look you in the eyes, I will start to realize you're pathetic in the worst ways. Yeah, you're spineless like on most days. When I look you in the eyes, I will start to realize you're not going anywhere, going anywhere. When you go to fight gods, but none of them live up to it, and all of them give up, does that make you feel better? When you go to fight gods, but none of them meet your eye line, does that make you feel fine, or are you disappointed? No one you look up to is better than you are. You know when you look up to is better than you are, than you are. When you go to fight gods, but none of them live up to it, and all of them give up, does that make you feel better? When you go to fight gods, but none of them meet your eye line, does that make you feel fine, or are you disappointed? You know when you look up to is better than you are.
You're tuning in to KCSB-FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara, online at kcsb.org. That was Pathetic, Spineless. The song, not the song's qualities, by Rain. We're listening to the Seattle Garage's discography here, and we have Rain, who the band leader, to talk and interview throughout. So we talked a lot about the lyrical aspect of Pathetic and Spineless. What inspired the musical qualities of it?
I think everybody's bringing their own personal read on what the garages should sound like. Whenever I was thinking about it, like my main reference in like big flashing red letters above my head was just like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, like Sax Bomb, that the fictional band within within that film, and what that sounds like. I was like, oh, that's what this sort of sound definitely is to me. But also like, yeah, everything that I write ends up being like not a reference to something else, but like definitely pointed in a direction. Pathetic, Spineless particularly, I think people pick up on the fact that it's very inspired by like folk punk, like the Front Bottoms or AJJ or stuff like that, and then like some influences from like Cake and like Cheek Face, stuff like that, in some of the other tracks. So yeah, because there's so many people bringing in so many different types of music. There's some tracks that are just like guitar and voice, or like ukulele, or like some like dark synth pop. It means that like whenever I'm writing stuff, I don't ever particularly feel like I have to stick to a particular sound. One thing that I do when I'm like pulling everything together is if something needs like a little extra layer of distortion over the top, I'll throw it on, or like a little extra compression just to really make it like crunch and be loud and take up the space that that sort of like lo-fi garage rock stuff usually does, where it's just like so loud and so fuzzy. That's really mostly what I do in terms of like bringing everything together. So yeah, not like a single musical influence for pretty much anything, but I think in the end up, everything together ends up feeling like a very cool but weird mixtape. I think is probably the closest to a description I could get for what the album sounded like as a whole.
Heck yeah. One more question before we move on. How did you write the melody for this track? Because it's been stuck in my head ever since we started talking about it. Is it just like inspiration, or do you have a process?
Not really. So this song particularly, I knew that I wanted it to be like a front bottoms type thing. And I was like, how would they write a song about going to fight gods or whatever? I was like, well, it would be something really mundane that you're doing on the way. Like it would 100% be that. And so like the first thing I wrote was, I'm riding in the front seat of a train car, but in that like whiny Brian Sella voice.
Yeah.
Just that like folk punk emo-ish sort of whine. And that was what was stuck in my head, is that first line. I was just going around my house the whole day being like, I'm riding in the front seat, just like the whole day. But then I knew that I wanted like a musical callback to one of the other tracks. So I think Fight Gods and this song both have extremely catchy choruses. But for some reason, whenever I like think of the chorus, it's always the chorus to Pathetic Spineless. There's something very catchy about it, and I can't explain why. But I'm very happy that it turned out as good as it did. Pathetic Spineless is also one of those songs that has for some reason become a fan favorite. I saw someone posting up mock-ups for the Pathetic Spineless tattoo they were going to get, and they looked very cool, and honestly was quite tempted myself, to be honest.
Heck yeah. All right, our next two tracks move on to that guy who we were never going to hear from again, Mike Townsend.
He keeps coming up for some reason.
Mike Townsend is like the mundane protagonist of Blaseball.
So this we're coming on to album 3.
All right. Is that Redemption Arc or?
And this is Redemption Arc. And the reason it's Redemption Arc is because it was at this point the garages in the game of Blaseball had picked up a couple blessings that made the pitchers better, and Mike was one of those pitchers. So he had went from being a very, very bad player to being a middling to decent to maybe sometimes quite good player. And I realized that most people, if they had heard of Mike Townsend at this point, had heard of him as a disappointment. So I was like, I need to fix this. So I wrote a song called Mike Townsend is a Credit to the Team. And Pat J. Cotter wrote a song called My Name is Mike way back when, because I guess Pat felt that Mike had gotten a hard deal out of the whole situation, and wrote a very sad song from the perspective of Mike Townsend being sort of outcast from the group because he wasn't very good at the sport he was playing. So up top on Redemption Arc, I was like, I think it's very important that we set the record straight on Mike Townsend, who's actually like a really sweet guy and actually has turned out to be quite good at this sport after all.
Oh yeah,
so that's
even outperforming his stats in a lot of cases.
For sure, and that's something that's actually happened with our team in general. Like our stats and the odds that we get are not great, but often end up overperforming them. And I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, whether that's just like the random number generator is very helpful, or our players are just good at very particular things and then bad at like other things. that aren't as important. But Mike had been, not to give the game away, Mike had been doing really well at this point. So we wrote about how good Mike was doing.
Yeah, he was smoking Jessica Telephone, who at that time was the best player, best batter.
And I think basically still is, right? Or maybe just people still like her a lot.
McDaniel passed her up stat-wise, but Jess Telephone still has the reputation.
Jess Telephone has the fan base to back it up, for sure.
Oh, yes. Plus, Nagomi McDaniel is currently trapped in a giant peanut shell, which is another thing that just happens in baseball.
Yeah. You do hate to see it.
So Telephone's the best active batter. Anyway.
But yeah, Mike was coming up in both stats and reputation. So Redemption Arc was, what if we wrote about Mike being better at this thing? And so that's the next two songs.
All right, without further ado, let's hear them. My Name is Mike by PJ Cotter, followed by Mike Townsend is a Credit to the Team by Rain.
Well, I'm sat outside the clubhouse 'cause my bandmates locked me out. They said I'm not really part of it 'cause I can't pitch 3 straight outs. I'm just here due to a contract. They say I can't write a song. Well, since when is playing baseball not a place we all belong? My name is Mike Townsend, and I play music. I can play music. My name is Mike Townsend, and I play music. And I can throw a ball, baseball. Oh, yeah. It's a sad state of affairs when a name on a dotted line is the only thing preventing me from taking back some time. Sometimes I wish I were a jazz hand, or I stared into the sun. Maybe then the fans would love me. Maybe then we'd have some fun. Till then I'm Mike Townsend, and I play music. Yeah, I play music. Yeah, I'm Mike Townsend, and I play music. And I can throw a ball, baseball. Oh, yeah, I'm Mike. All the fans seem to want for me is to grow 10,000 thumbs. They never asked for my opinion. What if I want baseball guns? Maybe if I grew a third arm, I could steal the fandom's heart. Until then I'll keep showing up till the umps put my soul in part.
Apology I need to make to you, 'cause I was underestimating all that you could do. We can't know what you've got or what's coming next. I just can't wait to see you get into your 8-leg mech. And I admit I got a little caught up, 'cause after all you didn't disappoint me that much. Mike Townsend is a credit to the team. Like a laser beam, we fire at the sun. Mike Townsend is a credit to the team.
special. We can leave what's in the past as antecedent, cause I can't put your vibes down when they are most excellent. And I admit I got a little caught up, cause after all, you didn't disappoint me that much. Mike Townsend is a credit to the team. He needs a theme that goes like na na